Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 1:44. Our next case is Mr. Darryl Lowry. Mr. Lowry, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Darryl Ramon Lowry, 304859.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Mr. Lowry, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then we're going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who wish to have input to speak. Speaking here today on your behalf is your sister, Jamesetta Martin, your niece, Samantha Dimmer, and your cousin, Stacy Lowry. Also speaking in opposition is Demetris Rivera and Lucretia Lewis. At the end of the hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board to make a statement, and then we'll vote. Do you understand our process, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Darryl R. Lowry, DOC number 304859, date of birth May 18th of 1967. He's classified as a third felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of August the 1st of 2021, an adjusted good time date of August the 6th of 2032, full term date of September the 25th of 2038. He is serving a 40-year sentence on the charges of manslaughter and second-degree kidnapping. Mr. Lowry, is that information basically correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lowry, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lowry. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I have some questions I want to ask you about yourself as well as about this case. Are you 56 years old?
No, ma'am, I'm 54. They got my 67 is 69. I was born in 69, May 18th, 1969.
Why do you think they have your date of birth wrong?
Probably a mistake.
They had to gotten it from somewhere, but that's okay. And how long have you been incarcerated?
25 years.
So you were around 30 years old when this crime was committed. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, 29.
That's around 30.
Yes, ma'am.
Around 30.
Yes, ma'am, I turned 30.
You're classified as a third felony offender.
Yes, ma'am, that made me.
You have priors for all drug charges. You have 2 prior convictions for possession of cocaine and 1 conviction for distribution of cocaine. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I show that on each one of your charges, each one of your sentences, you are either revoked on probation or revoked on parole. So you don't have a history of not doing very well on supervision. Why is that?
Well, I was still messing with drugs. That's why,
Okay.
you know.
How much education do you have?
I got my GED.
Before you came to prison, how much education did you have?
Ooh, I went to the 12th grade.
But you didn't graduate?
Yes, ma'am. I quit, got on drugs, and then go back, and that's why. Now
Okay.
I got my GED.
When did you get your GED?
In prison in
What?
90.
One of your previous periods of incarceration?
Yes, ma'am.
So how old were you when you started using drugs, do you think?
Ooh, 15.
What'd you start with?
Well, marijuana, then went to crack cocaine. That's my drug of choice.
How frequently were you using?
all the way up till I got, locked up this, when I caught this charge,
I mean, how often were you using?
I was using every day, all night, you know.
How were you supporting your habit?
Well, I wasn't doing no crazy stuff like breaking in housing, breaking in cars, or going in the store, shoplifting, none of that. I was just ripping and running cars, making transactions, you know.
Selling. You were
Yes,
selling,
ma'am.
you're selling for someone?
Well, yes, well, that's how I got high, you know. Basically selling for someone to get high.
So did you ever have a job during this, a real job?
I had a job,
What was your job, your real job?
I was working at the chicken plant in ConAgra,
Okay,
in Farmerville.
yeah.
I was working up till I got locked up.
Well, let's talk about this crime, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is Derek Mitchell?
He a friend of mine. We were all close. He was very forgetful, and that what happened in like the drugs and stuff, you know. That's how Mr. Lewis got killed, you know.
What does being forgetful have to do with Mr. Lewis getting killed?
That was, well, when Mr. Mitchell had placed some drugs out there in the woods, but he haven't, and he thought Mr. Lewis had got his drugs, and that what made him, but he found the drugs.
This man was beaten to death.
Well,
Over.
he beat him, but he didn't mean to kill him. But when he didn't mean to kill him.
Oh, hold on. He died as a result of being beaten.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. He died because he didn't get no medical attention.
What was your role?
My role was basically trying to help him cover up the body, you know.
Go back before it became a body. Didn't you hold the victim down?
Ma'am,
Well, I'm just telling you what the police report says and what the information says, that you held him down while Derek Mitchell beat him with a piece of wood.
no, ma'am, I ain't do none of that. They just misprinted it by me. They didn't want me to testify in my brother's behalf.
What does that got to do with anything? You're confusing me.
Because we was all there. We just rolled up there with him, and something, and one thing led to another. And that's how we got caught up in.
Well, all I can say is the reason that you got a manslaughter instead of a second-degree murder is because you cooperated and you gave a statement, and it indicated that you held the victim down while Mr. Mitchell beat him with a piece of wood. And then you all took him and left him put him in the trunk of the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you drove him and left him at an abandoned house.
Well, that was Derek Daddy's house.
Again, I don't care whose house it was. Nobody was living there, right?
Yes, he was living there. Derek was living there. They were all living there. Charlie was living there with him and Derek. They were both staying there. He just would leave Charlie up there.
So, again, according to the information,
Man, I understand where you're.
was Mr. Lewis put in the trunk of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And he was driven around and he was taken to an abandoned house and he had to be carried into the house because his legs were broken from the beating.
Not really. His leg wasn't broken. I don't know why they said that.
Did he walk into the? Did he walk?
We just carried him in the house because he had him tied up. And that's why we carried him in the house. Me and Derek.
So you were involved in the beating, you were involved in carrying him in the house. And y'all left in there overnight. And y'all left, somebody was left there watching. I don't know who that was. But when we came back the next morning, Mr. Lewis had died from his injuries. Is that correct?
Ma'am.
That had to be a pretty bad beating. You just don't die from, a beating unless it's a pretty brutal and severe beating.
Very
Right. And so what did y'all do when you went back the next morning and discovered that Mr. Lewis had died?
I panicked and tried to help him get rid of the body.
Now, how did y'all do that?
Well, we tried to, we didn't have no shovel, nothing to dig the grave, so we threw some gasoline on it.
We who?
Me and Derek.
You threw, okay, so,
Gasoline on it.
right. And you lit the match.
Yes,
Lit
ma'am.
the match on him, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When the body wouldn't burn up, y'all tried to dig a shallow grave and
Yes,
put
ma'am.
him in the shallow grave. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All because Mr. Mitchell thought the man had stolen his drugs and then he found the drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you agree to participate in something so horrific?
At the time when it happened, me and my brother didn't know that this was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, once you realized it was gonna happen, why you didn't try to stop it? Why did you?
I tried to stop it. I tried to tell Derek, no, Derek, don't do it. Don't beat him like that. You know what I'm saying? I tried to stop it. But he like, get back. You ain't got nothing to do with this. You know what I'm saying? Charlie been getting Derek for a long time. They were taking back in. Leave him at the house, leave his
Okay.
dope over there.
All right, okay, that's fine, that's fine. Now let's move forward and talk about the last 25 years. Okay, the last 25 years that you've been in prison. You've had 47 write-ups
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
last 25 years. The last one was in 2022. That was a theft.
Yes, ma'am.
What was that about?
Well, we get some bleach out the machine. I was watching the bus. So when I got through watching the bus, I tried to get me some bleach. And but I never come out the kitchen with the bleach though. I never came out the kitchen with the bleach.
Yeah, but you
So
intended to, just didn't get a chance to.
Yes,
Why
ma'am.
were you taking bleach? What were we gonna do with bleach?
We bleach our clothes. We bleach our clothes and stuff where it won't be like it'll be like Snow White.
And you got written up for that. And then in
Yes,
2021, you had some write-ups.
Yes, ma'am.
Those, you had a 30D
Yes, ma'am.
and unauthorized items. So tell me what that was about.
That was just being stupid and crazy.
I know, but what you do that was stupid and crazy.
Just, I don't know. I really don't even, I don't even know, Miss Jackson. I just, the write-ups I got, they were very crazy and stupid, you know. And I'm very
Well,
sorry.
Well, you know, what you worry about is somebody's been in prison for, at that time, you know, 23, 24 years. And you're still getting in trouble, still making poor decisions.
No, well, I'm kind of trying to straighten up and fly right now, you know. Cause my mother died on me and my daddy died.
Sorry to hear that, really. Now, another thing that I noticed is you haven't had a lot of programs. Can you explain to me why you don't have many programs?
Well, I went to programs, I got in them. I went to Living in Balance 1 and 2, Living in Balance phase 1 and 2. I went to AA. I got some certificate, but I just don't know where they at though. I got some certificate up under my bed.
But usually your programs are listed on your master prison record. Because the prison would have a record of the programs that you've taken. And the only ones that they have listed for you are, like you said, Living in Balance, 1 and 2. And then it looks like you enrolled in Living in Balance again in 2000 in this year. You enrolled in phase 2 in 2023, but then, as I read on, you were dismissed from the program.
Yeah, he said I missed 2 days, missed two consecutive days, so that it kicked me out. So I enrolled again, and I finished it. I completed the phase.
I'm okay, well. Okay. But those are the only programs that I see. I don't see Thinking for a Change. I don't see any other substance abuse programs. I don't see anger management. I don't see victim awareness. Why have you not?
I took up victim awareness and David Wade. I'm supposed to have a certificate of that.
Well, again, the only thing I can go by is what the records show. I don't have anything to indicate anything besides Living in Balance.
Yes, ma'am.
I really don't. You have a moderate risk, and you have a poor and fair institutional record. Warden, what can you tell me about Mr. Lowery?
With Jackson, not much. He's currently working in our kitchen as a kitchen worker. He's been in there for a while. He and I talked just the other day. That's the advice I give to him, to try to make sure he'll find and understand about what kind of image you need to show to some of these young offenders around here. We have some issue with some of the young offenders around here. He's been incarcerated for a long, lengthy amount of time. And that should be a way he ought actually should be trying to give back to the offender population, try to talk to some of those younger guys and from experience he had.
Thank you, Warden. Right, Ms. Randall, it's on now.
Now we'll hear from your supporters, your sister, Jamesetta Martin. Ms. Martin?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I don't know where to begin, but Darryl is a good person. He is, and he was just around the wrong crowd, easy to influence, under the influence of drugs. He's remorseful. We are remorseful. The family are. We recently lost our mother last year, his #1 supporter. And we're just sorry, and he has a great support system behind him, you know, to get him a good job and give back to society. It's just, I don't know.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Samantha Dimmer?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. If you'll introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know.
my name is Samantha Demmer. I am Darryl R's niece. I am his other sister's daughter. Uncle Darryl has always played a huge role in my life when I was younger. That was my father figure. You know what I'm saying? I understand people are human, they make mistakes. But before then, my Uncle Darryl, I mean, he was just that, my father figure. And so over the years, I have grown to, you know, accept the fact that he's in there, accept the fact that maybe one day he can get out. He done lost his dad and his mom while in there. And so I feel like he's suffered enough. And he's a very good person. I already have him a job lined up. I already have him a place to live. I just want him home. Like if you guys can find it in your hearts to understand, you know, and believe in second chances, for him to just get out and prove to you guys and everybody else that have seen him, you know, behind those four walls, to prove to you guys that he can actually be, you know, a decent human being, and he's learned from his mistakes. That's the most important thing, him learning from his mistakes. And I actually believe that he has.
Well, thank you, Ms. Zimmer. Ms. Dimmer, we appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from Stacy Lowery.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you. If you'll introduce
Yes,
yourself,
sir.
and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Yes, sir. I'm Darryl's first cousin, Stacy Lowery, and I grew up with him. You know, when our grandmother was down here in Ruston, and to let you know that Darryl's type of person, like his sister said, it's kind of easy to get influenced, but the guy's a good guy. I mean, you can ask maybe 1,000 people around Ruston, they'll tell you the same thing, but you know, he'll do anything for you. The guy's not violent, not a violent person, never has been. You know, us growing up, he always would take up for the younger kids, me and my cousins, you know, or he'd step in and say, hey, y'all stop that. You know, he'd bring stuff up. He never been an instigator. He's never been a person that goes out and start, you know, trouble with anybody. And I know it's been a long time since he's been locked up. And our heart goes out to the victim, because that's my cousin on my mother's side too. So I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I mean, when you look at it, you know, and but 25 years is a long time, and I think that he's learned his lesson. Maybe he can get out and make himself a productive citizen. And I just ask, y'all just give him a chance. Just give him a chance to get out here and just, like I say, lost his mom, lost his dad, it's just, she's been there. She stood there as long as she could. She held on as long as she could to try to see her kids get out. But my thing is, I think, just give him a second chance. Let him, at least get out here and be productive and get another chance at life. 25 years been a long time. So I would just, y'all feel it in your heart to let him out. Give him another chance. That'll mean the world.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. We appreciate your comments, sir.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from the opposition. Demetrius Rivera. Ms. Rivera? You're on mute, ma'am. You can unmute your microphone. No, ma'am, we can't. I can read your lips, but I can't hear you. Oh, ma'am, we still can't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Good. Thank you. If you'll
I can't
introduce
hear you.
yourself-
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Can you not hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. If you would please give us your full name and tell us what you'd like us to know.
I am Demetrius Rivera. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, ma'am.
In the interest of the court, I want to state the effects of the criminal actions of Darryl R and how his actions have had an effect on me. I am Demetrius Rivera. Since the murder of my brother, Charlie Lavelle Lewis, known as Lucky, occurred, I remind myself, often with tears streaming down my face, that Mr. Lowry thought he was lucky when he made the choice to join and participate in a cruel, ruthless, and unforgettable violent crime that involved my brother's abduction and death. Clearly, I recall sitting in the courtroom as if it was minutes ago, hearing the inhumane acts of crime performed freely and willingly by Mr. Lowry, and how my brother's death unfolded. The criminal acts included, first, kidnapping Charlie and transporting him in the trunk of a car while parading around our small town in Ruston, Louisiana, where the public could witness Charlie being beaten and bleeding. Continuous beating occurred, along with kicks in his head and in his side, in the presence of the community at specific stops in the moment. My brother begged with screams not to kill him. And he also stated, I didn't take the drugs, but the beating continued into a wooded area on the outskirts of our town in the woods. Primarily, Charlie was beaten with a 2x4 piece of wood, which caused hemorrhaging to his brain from the blunt force of nails that penetrated into his skull. Charlie was tied up in an old, dilapidated, worn down countryside wood frame house with no windows, so he would not escape. Afterwards, Charlie was buried in a shallow grave and covered with pine. Afterwards, his body was set on fire so he could not be identified. But one thing, my God, caused a heavy rain with intense thunder and lightning to pour down. And Mr. Lowry's car that he was riding in, it got stuck in the mud. And they couldn't get out. They had to leave the car and go down 2 miles to a neighbor's house to use the phone for someone to come and get them. There was blood on their clothes, and they asked the neighbor where they had walked 3 miles to use.
Ms. Rivera, we know all of the facts of the case. But we need you to wrap up. It's usually we allow 3 minutes and you've gone to over 4. So we need you to wrap up.
Nightmares stalk me at night as I still need help, emotional help due to the death of my brother. I experience uncontrollable crying, predicted anxiety attacks, sleepless nights, unplanned anger, episodes of depression and bitterness. My brother was innocent all along, but was not convinced that he was innocent. Yet he was continued to be beaten.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we're gonna have to ask you to wrap up. I'm sorry. Thank you very much for your
I
comment.
will wrap up in concluding. The drugs were found. Mr. Lowry, Jesus Christ can be found as well while serving many more years of incarcerated consequences, knowing that Jesus Christ will forgive, and so have I.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. We appreciate your comments, ma'am. Ms. Lucretia Lewis.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lewis.
My name is Lucretia Lewis Hardaway. I'm the only child. I had 5 children. So my dad had 5 grandchildren. Well, I had 6, but now I have 5 living and 11 grandchildren. My first issue is these guys was drug dealers. They were already on the street destroying lives. And through their drug dealing, they kept destroying more lives and took my father's life. The Christian in me forgives, but I can't forget. My dad was a good guy. And his cooking, the last memories I have of him is being in the grocery store and I knocked over a whole display of pickles, an entire display. He didn't get mad. I thought I was gonna be in trouble. He didn't get mad. Later, we went home to play catch and the ball went in the woods and I said, "I'll go get it, Daddy." And he was like, "No, I'll go get it." And I said, "No, I got it." He was like, "Lucretia, don't go in there." And I went anyway, covered in red ants everywhere. Everywhere. He took me, put me in the shower. I have not experienced the best smothered gravy since my dad. And I love to eat. I got my cooking from him. But at the same token, to find out that this is a family member, they had no regards for my father's life. At no point did they have a regard for his life to beat him, to drive him around town, then bury him to cover his body. It's unjust. It's really unjust. I for the life of me, you know, I've had to have counseling dealing with that years ago. It was probably one of the things that kept me from just loving, you know, even just loving a man. You know what I'm saying? So it took a lot for me to have to deal with this. And to know that this person wants to be released and walk on soil, and my dad is 6 feet under soil, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that at all, because his life is gone. My kids have no grandfather. My grandkids have no great grandfather. It's unjust. I have no sympathy for him. I do forgive him. Trust and believe, because my God, I serve a good God. And I know. And I want to read something that was.
Ms. Lewis, we're gonna have to wrap it up, ma'am.
Can I just read this one thing? It was from my father.
I'll give you about 20 seconds.
Okay. It said, your ancestors are with you. Your father is with you, and he wants you to know he loves you, and he's sorry he wasn't there for you, even though he wanted to be. He couldn't get that bug off his back. He wants you to understand that. There was not one day he went by and he didn't think of you or want to be with you. Said he kept a picture of you in his wallet at all times. He just wished he could have beat the addiction long before he did, because he was on track to being more active in you and your children's lives. That was his goal. I don't have that. I don't have that at all.
Thank you, ma'am. We do understand. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowry, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
I would like to give my heart out to the victim family. You know, it was made a bad decision, man. Made a bad. But I was on drugs too, you know. We were all, me and Charlie was on drugs. You know what I'm saying? We were all on drugs. I just hate that Charlie. I regret these 25 years of being locked up behind somebody else that I wasn't even involved in that. I was working. I had a job. I wasn't doing no stuff. I wouldn't even hurt him behind no drugs. I wouldn't even do nothing behind drugs. No. You think I'm gonna throw my life away behind drugs? That's what I'm trying to tell Derek. Not to throw his life away behind what he did to Charlie. And then he didn't want to take the lick. He didn't want to take his charge when we all went to court. He could have freed me and my brother. Me and my brother had to do with him, and something happened. Charlie had been getting him all this time, all them years. He waited till this time here to get him to do Charlie harm now because of somebody else. That wasn't on me. I tried to stop Derek. I tell him, Derek, no. His daddy didn't stop him. His sister didn't stop him. His daddy girlfriend didn't stop him. Me and my brother tried to stop him. He didn't want to listen to me, so he didn't want to listen to his daddy and sister. They couldn't stop him. They couldn't. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, DD and Lucretia. I'm very sorry. I think about this all the time that I'm locked up behind somebody else. I ain't do no crazy stuff. I know I sold drugs and I smoked drugs, but I ain't do no crazy stuff like that.
Thank you, Mr. Lowry. Appreciate
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to come in front of y'all. You know, I'm trying to do my best to make it out of here, you know.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lowry.
Yes, ma'am.
It may not have been your idea, but you were a participant in this crime.
Yes,
You
ma'am,
were.
because
You were a participant.
yes, ma'am.
And you were given the benefit of a manslaughter plea instead of going to trial for murder, where you would be serving a life sentence. So you've gotten some benefit from cooperation, but you involved yourself in this crime. And so you have to deal with the consequences.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a date of August 6th of 2032. You have a date. And that date could have been whittled down a lot more had you engaged yourself with programming and tried to do things to improve yourself, learn from your mistakes, but you just, for whatever reason, didn't do what you needed to do to work on you, and if for no other reason, to earn more credit. Your disciplinary record isn't great. You've gotten write-ups as recently as last year. Your risk is moderate. And you have limited programs. And so I just don't think you're ready. So my vote today is to deny because of your institutional record and your lack of programming.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise.
Mr. Lowry, I appreciate you today, but I concur with my colleague. My vote is the same for the same reasons, and also the victim opposition has been expressed at today's hearing.
Mr. Lowry, you have 2 votes to deny. My vote likewise is to deny for the same reasons as my colleagues have stated. Your parole today has been denied. Good luck to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The time
Thank
is
you.
8:26. We'll be adjourned at Allen Correctional. Warden, thank you so much for your help today.
Sir, Mr. Marabella, thank you as well.